worked in the COVID war room of the Union Health Ministry and also managed the oxygen concentrator MIS portal. He is an enthusiast in governmental affairs and has a strong sense of determination to improve the governance system. He holds a BTech degree from IIT Varanasi. Our next speaker is Mr. Vibhor Agnihotri. Currently, he is heading Dashmate. It's a health tech startup, and he's the founder and CEO of this organization. What does Dashmate do? So basically, it provides a faster ABDM integration solution for healthcare softwares. They have enabled hospital softwares, lab softwares, and health tech apps to connect with ABDM ecosystem in a matter of few days instead of months. Prior to starting Dashmate, Vibhor was part of Ola's international team, where he played a crucial and a vital role in its UK expansion. He is an IITian from Kanpur. His his business journey stems from his passion to leverage technology in transforming healthcare systems, a vision he manifests throughout and through Dashmate. Our next speaker is Mr. Rajiv Srivastav. He is a seasoned professional in the health tech industry with 24 years of experience working for leading pharma companies, right from Glaxo, Cipla, Reliance, and currently he is the head digital healthcare Tata Communications. He's a passionate, human centric technology that adheres to the highest ethical standards for healthcare data. He is also closely involved in the Ayushman Bharat digital mission as a technology partner, contributing to the digital transformation of India's healthcare sector. So today, before beginning the webinar, we are already on the moon and nothing seems impossible. So is digitization in the healthcare spectrum. Thanks to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who has started initiatives from the year 2015 with a vision to digitize the entire healthcare spectrum of our country. And talking about ABDM, it was started in the year 2021, 27 September 2021. And because doctors are the backbone when it comes to providing medical care to the masses, we thought of starting this webinar with the doctors, with the healthcare practitioners. And so I think it's already 5:16 and I should not be wasting a single minute further. I hand over the conversation to the moderator of today's webinar, who is Mr. Rajiv Srivastava. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shubhangi, and really, I welcome to all of doctors. And of course, this is a very important when I have attended various conferences for the health facility registrations, doctors. But I think that this webinar is majority focused by doctor is the center of for entire ecosystem. And I believe that without the doctors' interest in the digitizations, the things is not possible from the private sector, from the government sector's point of view. So this from the ABDM point of view, what I can give you just, today I will moderate this session. What I understand, the entire interoperable ecosystem where it can give a lot of, it's a very important for the patient's pool. It's very important to increase the efficiency of the doctor. It is very important for the data processing point of view. It's very important for the entire ecosystem to talk to each other. When we see, I can share, one example when, my mother was admitted in one hospital and I wanted to shift in another bigger hospital there. And I just missed it, my, file there in the small hospital. And you can understand how the kiosk and how the, things is happened. And this happens with several people where, you go to any hospital and any clinic, people are coming with the small and large files together. And once the doctor is recommending the patient, once again run to this thing. So entire ecosystem, if this entire ecosystem will digitalize, you can imagine the how the seamless work for the patient, how the seamless work for the doctors, and how the seamless work for the hospital can possible. Being a Tata Communication is providing, it's a telecom organization. There are three components, which is the software and cloud and telecom organizations, very important to complete the digitalization process in the healthcare per se. So my point of view, of course, this is the initial stage of Ayushman Bharat digital mission, where there are a lot of success and a lot of response coming from the doctors level, but there are a lot of challenges for the implementation point of view, and that is how this organization, this webinar is planned per se. We have the person Himanshu from the National Health Authority, who is working closely with the entire government ecosystem before with us, and he's closely working from the solution point of view. So you will get a lot of insight about the what is happening exactly, and from the overall perspective, which I can moderate the session, what is happening in the ecosystem. So let us I think I we will talk in between as well. Let us talk about the start with the Himanshu of the entire journey of the ABDM, where he can very well present the journey of the ABDM. In between, after that, we will have questions answer session. We'll do it. So just over to Himanshu, Imran. Over to Himanshu.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. It is a pleasure to address the community of doctors with respect to the digital health mission. And thank you for all the doctors to join in this brief interaction about ABDM and how ABDM can help doctors practice generally. I'll share my screen so that we can go through a brief idea of journey so far, which has happened in the digital health mission. So I'll not waste the time of doctors to state them the shortage of healthcare professionals in the country per thousand doctors or per thousand population nurses, radiologists, and so on and so forth. I'll not waste time on that, but what is important, which I want to highlight to all the doctors in this webinar, would be this. So this is an interesting journey which India is taking parallelly, which is about the India's internet journey. So out of you can say 1400 million individuals, the telephone subscribers have reached almost 1150 million, and out of them, around 800 have a internet service. So, and if you break it down further in urban, rural, tele-density and household level percolation, I think you get the picture what I'm trying to say, that each and every household right now in the country, barring few exceptions, have a mobile phone, and a significant majority of them have a internet-based mobile phone. Of course, there are bifurcations in it. You can say that the gender equation would be there, where women would not have the access, but I think we'll not go there in this webinar because that is out of the purview. But the single point which I want to drive here is that India is getting digitized, and people are using internet, which is very evident with respect to our mobile consumption data, which is touching the skies, and I think it is almost highest in the world in some sense. UPI has kind of molded the Indian citizenry to do the transaction in digital manner. Next is healthcare. And I think Rajiv rightly pointed out, the backbone of the entire healthcare system is doctors. So it is, I think, will be up to the doctors to embrace the digital mission and deliver the healthcare in the digitized format. So ABDM, I think it was touched upon by Shubhangi in our opening remark. The digitization of healthcare started with the National Health Policy, a document which came out in 2017, which highlighted that India has to adopt the digital means of delivering healthcare, which then formulated in something called National Health Stack by Niti Aayog in 2018, which basically outlined the broad contours of how the National Health Stack will look like. And then it eventually took a shape in the form of National Digital Health Blueprint, which laid down the pathway that, okay, this is how the entire digital health stack would look like. And basis the precursor with respect to the policy, the blueprint, the stack, ABDM was piloted in 6 union territories in the month of August 2020, when the Prime Minister announced the digital health mission from the ramparts of the Red Fort. After a successful pilot in 6 UTs, it was launched nationwide on 27 September 2021. It has been almost 1.5 years. I think we'll be completing 2 years in September of ABDM. And it is, I would say, still it is in a very nascent stage. It has not reached the stage where it has to reach if we want to take the likes of the digital payment ecosystem. But the journey has begun, I would say. And the overall objective remains the same: universal health coverage. Everybody should have the healthcare on accessible, you can say, cheap, out of pocket expenditure should come down. We have to ensure that no individual is left behind. We know there is a uh, tendency, or there is a human resource bias, particularly in the medical fraternity, towards urban area than rural area. So we have to bridge all those gaps so that we can achieve the universal health coverage. And in that endeavor, national digital health ecosystem should be created, which will provide the services with the doctors, with the allied healthcare professionals, with all the nursing staff, paramedical staff, and the health data should get digitized, because that will eventually also then form a positive feedback loop for all the medical professionals to deliver further care. Talking about the technological and policy principle behind the national health stack, from the policy point of view, the entire architecture is built in such a way that it is privacy and security by design in the system, because by far health data is the most sensitive data amongst all the personal identifier information. So ABDM has taken that into consideration, and it is I'll demonstrate how it is by security and privacy by design in its principles. Second is we want everybody to be part of it. As I mentioned, there is a gap between the rural and urban. There is a gap between gender, and there is also sometimes gap between classes. So we have to bridge all those things, and digital means is, I believe, because it somehow has an agnostic nature to it. So therefore, it does not discriminate between all the discrimination which commonly occurs in our society. So that is another fundamental principle which ABDM follows. Third is the voluntary participation. So at no point it is being made mandatory for everybody, because for the simple reason, there should not be a denial of service at any point in time. So voluntary participation is the key tenet in ABDM, whether it for the facility, doctors, or the citizens. But our thought and endeavor is such that the value prop should be such that the doctors, the facilities, and the citizens are willing to join the digital ecosystem, just as what has happened with Aadhaar ecosystem or the UPI ecosystem. And overall objective from the policy lens is to shift India's healthcare journey from curative to preventive to wellness in nature, because I think there would never be enough doctors, never be enough facilities to treat I would say 140 crore individuals in this country. So I think the best way forward would be to nudge the citizens towards wellness centricity. From the technological point of view, I'll touch upon all these aspects. I will not delve into these federated architecture, openness, and interoperability right now, but I'll touch upon these in the subsequent slide. And I think that would give you a fair idea that how federated architecture would be most beneficial for doctors in terms of data security and privacy as well. So if you see overall, if I want to bring everything in nutshell, what does ABDM do? ABDM essentially does the interoperability between all the health applications. So if you see currently, these all exist in our healthcare domain, right? Government hospital, private hospital, GPs, laboratories, ANM, ASHA, which provide the frontline services in the rural areas. There are government health programs such as RCH, TB, you can have NVHCP. So there are many amount of programs which are running. Similarly, there are new age health tech startup also which are coming. There are Practos of the world, there are Medibuddies of the world. So everybody is operating in a silo, but the challenge right now is that nobody is talking to each other. So I think, as Rajiv mentioned in his opening remark, that one has to physically move those records from one side to another. That essentially is a problem in healthcare, and that is not a problem of India per se. I think that is also a problem of significantly large developed countries as well. In India, what we want to achieve through ABDM is our digitization of healthcare, I would say, amongst all the sector is last to occur. Since it is last to occur, I think we can leapfrog in the digitization journey where we, instead of making systems which are silos in nature, we can make the solutions from the very beginning in interoperable manner, just as we were able to do in the digital health transactions. So as soon as the wallet ecosystem was growing, I don't know if you remember, we used to scan the PhonePe wallet for PhonePe transaction, Paytm wallet for Paytm transaction. But as soon as UPI came, everything became agnostic. So that is the endeavor here as well. Obviously, the I would say the arena is 10, I would say 100 times bigger in healthcare, because it is not just one way of transaction which healthcare does. It is 1,000 other transactions, whether it is the MRI records, radiology records, laboratory reports, doctor prescriptions, IPD, OPD, so on and so forth. So there are multiple such things. So with ABDM, the idea is that they should be able to plug to each other and interoperability should occur. So if I want to say it in another fashion, so ABDM is not something which is visible to any users per se. It is a system, or it is an ecosystem which is running behind all the other ecosystem. That's how it will. That's how it works. I will not want to go deeper into this because the audience is of a different kind, but I just want to put it there so that everybody from the medical fraternity is also aware that this is the larger architecture of ABDM which we want to make. So this basically, if you want to read it, it is read from bottom, and then you gradually move from bottom to top. So at the core, if you see, there are some digital public goods which India is taking I would say, leapfrog in terms of digitization of entire government services. Aadhaar is one, DigiLocker is one, UPI is another. These are all digital public goods, right, which are available for private sector also, where they can consume these services and build top of it. Just to state an example for everybody's understanding. So if you remember earlier, when SIM cards used to get issued, we had to physically submit our documents, and then they used to get verified. And after 3 days, they used to say, okay, this is now verified, and they used to issue SIM. But when the fourth carrier in the Indian market was entered, it used Aadhaar eKYC service. Through eKYC service, the user was authenticated within seconds. And then they were able to scale up, I think, in an unprecedented manner, which nobody had seen. And while people may see that, okay, they have risen on back of something, but in essence, they have actually grown on the back of technology, where they have utilized Aadhaar services. And after that, I think every telecom industry followed the suit, where now you simply do the eKYC. Either you do the biometric authentication or you do the OTP authentication. So if you move from cross-domain public goods to ABDM digital registries, this is essentially what we are making the sectoral single source of truth. If you remember the previous slide, one of the element was the single source of truth. So ABDM is making these registries, and for the purpose of this talk, we will delve into one of the registries which would be relevant for the audience here as well. So one we are making for citizens, which is known as Ayushman Bharat Health Account, or ABHA, where every citizen of India will get a unique 14-digit identifier, which would act as a health account for them. Some of you may have a question that why we are not using Aadhaar, because Aadhaar does not have a provision to store the health data. Whereas in the digital health construct, we want the citizens to have a view over the digital health data of his or her history. So that's why the endeavor is to create new registries of ABHA. Second is the healthcare professionals registry, where all the professionals, be it doctors from modern medicine, from traditional medicine, nurses, allied healthcare professionals, all the 56 allied healthcare professionals which are right now identified and are under process of formalization by the ministry, where they are getting their new council. So all of them would also be getting listed here. So the idea is to make a uniform or a single source of registry for all the healthcare professionals. This would give us the clear picture of how many healthcare professionals we have in this country. Because so far, I think we always do an estimate. Even the NMC has a number of around 12 lakh doctors, but I think that list has never got edited, omitted, or appended. I think the last which I heard, again, I'm not very sure about this, but somebody said to me that even a 1920 doctor is also in that list. So that list is not getting modified on a regular basis. And some of the doctors are also getting, they are getting uh, employment in other countries. So they're also moving out. So, but this list should get updated and modified. The third registry is the facility registry. Again, with the same purpose, we don't have a clear picture how many facilities are there in country, health facilities. We tend to operate on whims and fancies and some estimation, but the idea is to enlist each and every health facility. And if you remember, during the COVID, health facilities actually became a bone of contention for everybody because nobody was able to find which is my nearest facility, what are the specialties they are offering. With health facility registry, we want to bring everything under a single umbrella. So that is the objective of health facility registry. Fourth is the drug registry. This, I think, is becoming more and more crucial these days after issues in country, outside country, where fake drugs or the you can say non-verified drugs which are making entrance into the market and harming the customers, both from the doctor's point of view and the citizen point of view. So this drug registry is meant to help the doctors to write the right prescriptions so that they are also not penalized or harassed in some sense, but the citizen and the consumer at large is also being aware. Now, built on top of these registries are these gateway protocols, because if you see the registries by in themselves does not serve any purpose to you. Because if you get registered, then what? What is the use of your registration in this? Now, basis the registry, we are making these three gateways. The digital gateways we call, the protocols, what we call. One is the unified health interface, another is health information exchange, and third is the health claims exchange. All of them basically form a journey from a healthcare point of view. So first, any patient or citizen want to discover the service, one can go on the unified health interface. They can discover the service, which is the doctor near me, which is the facility near me, which is the ambulance near me, how can I call them, blood banks near me, all these services, telemedicine booking, and the list can be endless. I think the healthcare services are also expanding, with wellness becoming a more and more prominent issue after pandemic. The second is the health information exchange, which is the most crucial and most novel, so to say, because this will actually allow the flow of data from one entity to another, from one doctor to another, from one hospital to another. They can be geographically separated, they can be physically separated, but still they will be able to talk to each other with obviously the consent of patients. And lastly, the health claims exchange, where the facilities, the health facilities which are listed with any insurance companies, they have to manage I think, 20 portals of 20 different insurance companies. With health claims exchange, that is being reduced to one claims exchange. The hospital just have to use one, and the claims exchange will be rerouted to the separate insurance provider. All three gateways is what National Health Authority is making. The top layer, which is the user application layer, is what the market will make. NHA, National Health Authority, or ABDM is not in the business of making any application per se. We are leaving it to the market. So if I want to give you a simpler example, UPI, Unified Payment Interface, is a protocol which was made by the NPCI. But PhonePe, Google Pay, Paytm, all these applications are private sector. So idea is that the protocol layer would be managed by the government, which is in partnership with private sector, but the top layer, which is the user experience. And I think time and again, it has been proved that government is not a good provider of experience, so to say, although they can do it in certain segments. But by and large, if you want to give you a seamless experience and a comfortable experience, it is usually best left to the private sector, where they can cater to the demands in a very agile manner. Okay, this may be a bit loaded, so I've simplified it for the audience purposes. So this is in a very simplified manner what is happening under the three gateways: interoperable health data, interoperable health claims, and third is the interoperable health services. Interoperable health data would have multiple consequences. I think would majorly help the doctors per se, because once the health data is digitized, I think that can flow into a CDSS like a system where doctors would be aided by a technical intelligence. Because I think there is no I think in a healthcare it is very evident, and multiple studies have shown it, that the healthcare, it is more about services, more about a healing touch, and healing touch is only possible through a humanity. Now, but I think in our country, we are short of that humanity which can provide that healing touch. So we want to give the arms to that healthcare professionals, that, okay, you use this technology tools, make yourself more efficient and deliver the healthcare. So once we have enough data sets which are available in the healthcare ecosystem, I think every doctor would have more visibility in terms of what is the exact clinical advice which everybody is giving. Obviously, we will not see the personal data. I'll that come to in a minute, that how the records and everything is being flown into. This is the core registry which I was talking to. And each and every registry has some basic principles. So ABHA has a 14-digit unique number for citizens' perspective. It has a very basic identifier of patient demographic information: name, age, gender, address, those things. It is again voluntary and consent driven. What it does is basically it gives citizen a unique identifier which would be applicable across the healthcare ecosystem once the health system matures. HPR is the most crucial bit with respect to the conversation right now we are having. It is the comprehensive registries for all the healthcare stuff, which I just told you. It is again a 14-digit unique identifier, and it will basically establish the credibility also of any healthcare professionals, because I think healthcare professionals are also struggling with the quack problem, so to say, in the Indian market. So that problem is also being taken care in the health professionals registries. I'll give you a brief rundown on how to register in HPR towards the end of this segment. HFR is for facilities, where all the facilities, be it the pharmacy, labs, hospital, nursing home, single doctor clinic, everything is being registered, and they are being given a 12-digit identifier so that they can be uniquely identified, and there is also a process to register under it. Drug registry is the similar bit, which I think I explained earlier as well, that uh, a single source of truth for all the drugs. So the drug you write, its information with respect to salt, maker, brand name, everything would be available to public to see, okay, this is a genuine drug. From the development point of view, ABHA, HPR, and HFR, these three are live. Drug registry is in the testing phase. It would be launched soon. So this, I think, would be very interesting for the doctors here. So ABDM essentially is a what we call a federated health architecture. So at no point, I repeat, at no point we are bringing all the data to a central server. If I think many of our doctor friends have that cynicism, so to say, and rightly so, that the government is bringing all the healthcare at a central level, and then they will be able to have the visibility of what are you prescribing or how many are you prescribing, and then correlating it with your other avenues, be it financial, commercial, everything. But ABDM is a federated health architecture. At no point, I repeat again, at no point we are bringing all the health data to a central server. What we are essentially doing is, the system right now, as it is, it remains as it is. So if you generate a record, let's say I'm taking hypothetical examples, if you generate a record in a district hospital in Dharwad, and another record you generate in AIMS, the record stays there. Right now also it stays there, right? It stays in the either if they're not using an HMIS facility, then the record stays in an offline format. But if they digitize it, then the HMIS provides a cloud storage, but it stays at the hospital level. ABDM is not shifting this. ABDM, what essentially it is doing, it is making a link. It is linking that, okay, this patient's ABHA, which is tagged to this record, is sitting in this facility which has an HFR of this, and this is using this software HMIS. That link is stored is in HICM. So whenever somebody wants to ask for a record, it has to invoke that facility. It is almost like a, I would say, a physical system taking in a digital manner. So that's the, in a nutshell, what we are doing. And I'll touch upon how the data transfer is taking place, but this is in a brief what ABDM is doing. And then access can be to anybody in the health ecosystem, but consent of citizen would be paramount. That is there. And by the way, it also aligns with the digital health protection laws which we have just enacted in this recent session of Parliament, where the consent of citizen would be paramount in terms of data processing, data sharing with any other data fiduciary. So in that sense, the architecture is aligned with the law of the land. And soon enough, we'll also bring in the formal communication that how it is aligned with the citizens' privacy rights. Sorry, I think I skipped one. Okay, yeah. This is the bit which I was telling you about, the health information exchange and consent manager. That how does the data transfer from one user to a provider per se. So as I said, assume that health information, I mean, definition wise, health information provider is the one which generates the health record, and health information user is the one which consumes the health record. So a doctor can both be a consumer and a provider. So for example, a PHC professional would be a provider, but if it is the patient is referred to a district hospital, then the district hospital would be a user. And after the using the previous health record, it would also be acting as a provider. So the provider and the user, these are interoperable roles which can be given to any doctors also. So when a doctor raises a request that I want to see the record of this patient, that patient receives a notification. Okay, so and so doctor wants to see my record from this date to this date, and this is the type of record. That patient then okays in the cell phone that okay, this is my health record which doctor want to see, and as a patient I have a right, I can uncheck, I don't want to show this record to you. So that right is with the patient, and then that information goes through the source where your health record is stored with the consent of citizens. So that HMIS or the facility will see that okay, Dr. A is asking the record of patient B, and patient B has given the consent. Okay, now Dr. C should send the record to Dr. A. In this entire ecosystem, ABDM or the National Health Authority is just a facilitator. At no point we are seeing the records. We don't have the visibility to records, what is being prescribed, what is being said, or what is being done. All we are doing is facilitating the exchange, making it seamless, making it easy, and making it interoperable. And for that, we are using something we call a FHIR record, which is the Fast Health Interoperable Record Standards, which are universally applicable based on HL7 standards. So this is HICM gateway, and this is live, and I'll show you figures in the subsequent slide. This is the second gateway which I touched upon, the Unified Health Interface. You see, this is the current on the left hand side. This is the current system right now. Although we are in a nascent state, but this is the system. So for teleconsultation, you can, I'm just saying name. You can assume any platform. Let's say platform A. Online pharmacy, we very well know that which are the online pharmacy, which platform exists, and lab services. So for every bit which you want to take, you have to have a separate application for all three of them. And similarly, there can be multiple applications. So as a citizen, it becomes very difficult for me to manage 7 applications for one services. And I think this problem has been beautifully solved by the financial ecosystem. Again, I'm saying financial ecosystem is 1/100th of the healthcare ecosystem, but I think we ought to take inspiration, which is already in some sense in some other domain. So what we are doing in ABDM, we are making it open protocol. You use one application and you can call any application. So you can use, for example, Arogya Setu, which is the national health application, and you can use any other service provider in the market, and you can book a consultation, you can book a lab test report, you can book pharmacies, all through one application. And it can be vice versa. Again, as I said in the beginning, that this is the bit which would be catered most beautifully and seamlessly by the private sector, where they will make that application one health application where everything would be there. And for doctors also, it would be easy for them not to register on multiple platforms. So for example, doctors also have a problem that if they're registered on platform A, they are not visible on platform B services. So you have to have a individual either contract with different platforms to give their teleconsultation service if they want to. With ABDM, we want to break that. So you sign up, as in doctor sign up with whatever platform gives you the best deal. The UHI will ensure that you get the visibility, discoverability across all the platforms. So in that way, it increases the discoverability of the doctors as well. In a very brief thing, this is just an indicative list, whatever the UHI right now is enabling, but I think the list would be endless as health services domain expand. Right now, we just started with teleconsultation because that is the most familiar digital health service which is taken by the citizens of this country since the beginning of pandemic. And I think advantage I have already told you. It makes visibility manifold for doctors. Pricings also become transparent because currently you are platform bound. So if you want to check the price on another platform, you have to move physically from one platform to another. It creates a hindrance. And most important, teleconsultation. I'm myself an avid user of teleconsultation, and the best part about this is that whenever I get a sneeze or a cold, I can straight away book a teleconsultation and get myself checked. So I don't wait, or I don't allow myself to get seriously ill to go to a doctor physically. Right, I immediately take a teleconsultation, take a medicine, and then I'm through my routine. I don't want to push it, or I would say in Gandhian terms, I don't self-medicate on myself that, okay, I'll heal my body myself. So I rely on this mode, and it helps. It helps. It seriously helps. These are the statistics which are live from ABDM. So out of 140 crore individuals, 44 crore Abhas have already been created. Facilities, 2 lakh facilities have already registered on ABDM in HFR. I would say the challenging part is that the universe for health facilities are not known to us right now. So we take an estimate of around 12 to 14 lakh facilities which are there in country, but we don't know the exact universe. So again, that is the endeavor of HFR as well. Similarly, for health professionals, if we assume the universe 12 lakh for doctors, another 20 or 13 lakhs for, let's say, nurses, and then for Ayush and subsequently allied healthcare professional, I think number that crosses around 1.2 crore per se, I guess. But the registration is a little bit slow because we have right now only permitted 3 types of registration. One is the modern medicine doctors, second is nurses, and third is the traditional medicine doctors. Ayush, all the Ayush bit. Successful integrators is something where I think the entire healthcare ecosystem is physical in nature. So doctors, hospitals, everything is there. They have to have their digital clone in the ecosystem. So a hospital uses an HMIS. A doctor uses a health service provider application. Just like you have a Uber user and Uber driver, healthcare also has a simpler thing, right? I use a teleconsultation platform which has a doctor element to it as well. So similarly, there are around 120 integrators which have already integrated with us. This also include government programs. So RCH is a part of it, non-communicable disease, NCD is a part of it, NVHCP is a part of it, CGH is a part of it. So from a doctor point of view, I think slowly, gradually, everybody is becoming part of it. And once the system is digitized enough, I think the doctor will also have a visibility, deeper visibility to even their public programs services as well, right now, which the doctors don't have. So what was the antenatal checkup given to a pregnant lady during the 9 months? And if she is transferred or if she is referred in a private care facilities, that record is not there. But with ABDM, that would be there. Health records, which I'm speaking about it. So right now we have 30 crore health record linked in it. Obviously, the ecosystem is dominated right now by a couple of providers per se, but we are still, getting over there. Health facility token is something which use case which NHA has just started. It is related to the queues which we have in the public hospitals for OPD. Long snake-like meandering queues where you have to wait 2-3 hours just to get a token, and then you again wait in queues after the doctor clinic, just to get yourself, as I said, to check that I had a cough. What should I take? For those small things, people are going there. So ABDM has started something called a scan and share service. It is almost like a MACD service where you scan the QR which is posted in a public place in the hospital. You get a token on your mobile phone. You simply go to the registration desk. You say, this is my token number. The counter individual gives you a slip, and then you straight away move to a doctor. So this reduces the patient time, something from what we have seen from 50 minutes to 5 minutes. This is what we call the longitudinal health record visibility to any patient per se. And this, to be very honest, I have also created myself for myself. So at any interaction point in the entire health ecosystem will be captured and will be visible to a patient. In this case, a hypothetical patient, let's say called a Rani Devi, 28-year-old, which has been part of RCH, IDSP, Ayush, Covin, and a private hospital. And this longitudinal health record would be visible to frontline workers, nurses, doctors, with consent of Rani Devi, of course. But the record is visible. The idea is that. So if somebody has an allergy, then the doctor would know in advance rather than having those things. Because I think in India right now, I mean, there are many problems, but one of the problems is also sometimes where there is some when the patient is affected with some allergy and then the subsequent complications occurs. So I think with help of this visibility, I think doctors would be most benefiting from this, that they have the entire history there and they can make decisions on basis of it. This is the scan and share bit which I was talking about. This system is up, wide, and running across 32 states, 1900 plus hospitals in the country, and almost on a daily basis, 70,000 people are using this facility of scan and share. And as I said, this is a hospital in New Delhi, where this is the result which we have seen. And on the right hand side, you can see the TV screens which are there. So if you remember from, I think, similar thing which also happened in railways where you are standing in queue for Tatkal ticket and those things. But we have tried to minimize the time for patient. So this is the live example of patient getting benefited. And one of the benefits which the doctors, I mean the OPD area doctor manager have told us that the grievance have significantly reduced, because in these queues the problem is that इसने मेरा line cut कर दिया, ये मेरे से आगे आगे खड़ा हो गया, मैं यहाँ बाहर गया था, so on and so forth. Though these problems are also being taken. So these are the unintended positive consequence for the manager of the OPD area which we are seeing right now. And this is just to encapsulate the whole idea for you, that what it is helping for citizens, providers, policymakers. I think I've touched upon all on these aspects in the previous slides as well. But just to reiterate the providers bit of you, I think clinical decision making would improve definitely. Teleconsultation, I think the confidence is, I would say, is increasing only. There is no decline in the confidence in teleconsultation. Easy and accurate record management for doctors. I think the doctors are also mandated by law to store the records for a certain period of time, 3 to 7 years, depending on the state legislation per se. So that is also possible with ABDM, because you use a digital solution that stays on the cloud server. So you don't have to worry about maintaining the physical records of any and every citizens. And this is being done. I'll touch upon that, how it is helping a doctor in a 6x6 clinic in Dharavi. They are also using it. And last not but least, the faster and effective settlement of claims. So this is an idea in making, and it is also making a traction. So NHA is also working with IRDI with respect to digitization of claims. And with that, we endeavor that the insurance company will have enough data to cover the OPD insurance under the GAR, which is right now completely out of the equation in India. There are, I think, recently in past 6-7 months, there are few companies which have started that, but not many companies have done because of two reasons. Prime, one, the cost of claim processing is around 500 to 600 in India, which is very high. I think that is also the cost of OPD in India as well. If you take one consultation in New Delhi, I think it costs around 500 to 600. So that is being taken care of. So if the insurance company have enough data points, they will be able to cover the OPD insurance, and I think doctors would be the most benefiting out of it. So that's the healthcare provider. And policymaker, I think the larger level view, national level view, and then aggregated and anonymized view is the best thing. And this is the another initiative which National Health Authorities just launched in the month of January. So for every digitization of record which a facility does, we are providing 25 rupees per record. So, but again, this is not applicable for individual doctors. We are not giving it to individuals, but we are giving it to facilities. So for example, if you even run a clinic, which is a single doctor clinic, we are giving them the incentive. This is, I think, 8th month, and in the last month, I think we have released the incentive close to around 2.34 crores to multiple facilities and the solution. So it is not just the doctors which will be getting the incentive, it is also the solution which you would be using. They would also be getting the incentive of 5 rupees. So this is one of the I would say motivators for doctors to digitize the record. So let's say if you are located in a tier 2 or tier 3 city where the if the OPD consultation is around 100 to 200 rupees, additional 10 to 20% you can earn if you digitize that record. So and I presume that that will also cover the cost for digitizing for you, because obviously digitizing would also not come for free for you. There may be some solutions which would be charging that amount to you, but there are many which may not charge anything to you. So I think that part would be covered by Vibhor subsequently. This bit is live. As I said, around 4 crore have been released till in the last 7 months. The only thing which I reiterate, we are not giving incentives to the individuals. We are giving incentives to the facilities. So if you have a single doctor clinic, we are still giving you the incentive. So I would urge everybody who is listening to this webinar today, get yourself registered in ABDM, HFR, HPR to take the incentives. And the scheme right now will run till December. So, and the ceiling is 4 crores per month. So I think if the single doctor clinic has the enough time and bandwidth, even if the doctor does a 24-hour consultation, I think the doctor will not be able to do the 4 crore, will not be able to hit the 4 crore mark. So I think for all practical purposes, the incentive is infinite in that sense for single doctor clinics. The second bit which NHA is doing is the microsites. So microsite is what we want to showcase the doctors, because there obviously rightly so, there is some level of skepticism that citizens may not be using the digitization means, or doctors are not comfortable. There's a time taken to digitize things. So on and so forth. There are many contentions. So NHA actually started with a pilot in Dharavi. So we took pilot in Dharavi in 7 or 8 wards where we digitized the doctors which were obviously willing to participate in ABDM. And you can see right now we have around 800 plus doctors which have registered. And mind you, this is very small area. Dharavi, I think, as you all know, with the Asia's largest slum, it is mind-boggling to see. I mean, I have personally went and seen doctors giving digital prescription in a 6x6 clinic where there is enough space for one doctor and one patient, and laptop is there, and they're digitizing the prescription, and they're taking the advantage of incentives as well. So this microsite is now, because of the success of, as I said, with Dharavi, NHA is launching 100 such microsites across country. The first one, or I would say the third one, being in Aizawl. So Northeast is also picking up this trend. So I think 3 days back, Northeast also launched its first microsite. Idea is again to mobilize the private sector. The idea is not to do the public sector digitization, because these single doctor clinics, or these are what I call them, the first line of defense in our healthcare journey, because as soon as whatever happens to you, you simply touch upon those clinics. So you go to those clinics. If they are digitized, then I think your entire journey upwards can also be digitized, because that's where your maximum records are generated, because you take a prescription, you take medicine, and then you go home. And until unless something serious occurs, you don't get referred upwards. So this is a live project which is going on by NHA. And I think I'm done with the conceptual part. This is just to give you how you can start your journey with ABDM. This is an overview that you have, if you are a doctor, if you run a small clinic, you just have to have a HMIS. It can be a clinical management solution as well. I think Vibhor will touch upon those in his conversation. Then you start simply capturing patients' ABHA, give them digital prescription and link that record with that ABHA, and you are done. You don't have to do any fifth step in this. So you are sorted in that manner. And this is the entire journey for the doctors in ABDM. There is nothing more in that. And this is what I like to put it for all the doctors which are present in the webinar, that delivering healthcare in digital means it can be many things, but I've encapsulated in terms of access, discoverability, going paperless, and something also integrated with global workforce, because this is an idea in making. I think we would see that in the upcoming time, when everybody says, and even the Honorable Prime Minister says, that world is one family, one earth, one health, and India being the workhorse of the world, we would be soon integrating our systems with the global systems. So that, I mean, again, it's a vision, but I think it is a vision which is possible, and which would be possible in, I would say, 5 years down the line, where doctors from India can give teleconsultation to the countries in neighboring regions or in Europe as well. It depends upon the bandwidth, and you can get paid in that currency. And this is a part of global mobility workforce. I mean, you can physically move, you can give the teleconsultation, but that would be possible if you are geared up to digital means. Otherwise, it won't be possible. So that's the bit which I wanted to mention. And this was also because I was recently at the Health Ministerial G20 in Gandhinagar, and this was major discussion point amongst all the world leaders, that everybody in that sense is eyeing towards India. We have the workforce. Although we are also very short of healthcare workforce, but I think our healthcare workforce is resilient enough to cater to the global needs as well. And I think everybody in that sense would know that around, I think, 6 to 7% of US workforce is Indian. Similar with the European workforces. Indian nurses are in huge demand across Europe. So there is a demand of Indian workforce, healthcare workforce. I think if somebody wants to still cater to those global audiences but want to remain in India, I think digitization is the way forward in that sense. So with that, I think the ABDM bit which I wanted to cover and I want to give the overview is kind of done here. Rajiv, if you permit, I can help them to navigate through the healthcare professional registry, or we can touch it later as well.
So I think, Himanshu, I think you have given wonderful thought process. Only thing is that from the one of my questions, and then followed with the certain doctor questions also there on the board. So one question is that how, private practitioner point of view, they will have once the ABDM is implemented, they will have the access about the all government programs, because the doctors are seeing the variety of the patients from the variety of the socio-economic classes, where doctor can want to help certain patient pool to enroll in the government program. Will there any facility for that kind of things?
I mean, with respect to the enrolling in the other programs, what we are trying to do, which we recently had conversation our ministry as well, uh, that there are talks. This is right now in I would say in formulation, but there would be something called a single sign-on. So becoming a central identifier, it will help the other programs to enroll that patient from a different scheme altogether. So they don't have to do the fresh registration. Right now, let's say uh, somebody is on Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, right? They are getting the 5 lakh insurance benefit, which are eligible. Now the idea is that if we can, and we are working towards it, so that it is not just the I think tech savvy audience which can use the entire digital ecosystem, but we are making the system voice based, so that they can simply speak. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to write anything. They simply speak in one I would say voice based assistant. It will help them to register in any program they want to get registered in with the common identifier Abha. I hope that answers a bit, but
Yes.
the
Yes, sir.
entire
We are looking forward more for the private practitioner empowerment through the ABDM, and that is
yes,
how it is very important. See the hospital, because we have a fragmented healthcare infrastructure where the proper governance above the software providers is important, right? Because the fragmented healthcare, every provider have, doctor also don't have that access with the private provider, which is the important in the ecosystem, where the doctor should be empowered for their entire ecosystem. No software provider have that power. So currently the system is there where the software providers, they are more access about the data point of view, but doctor don't get that kind of accessibility about the what is happening in the ecosystem. So that is one point which is, so I think, and we have a shortage of time. We have to go to Shubhangi. Can you just, I think there are 2-3 questions which we can put right now with respect to Himanshu. If there, then we can go to Bibhor for that thing. So I would suggest, I think, let Bibhor will also conclude that point
yeah,
of technology. Then we will
yeah.
have the question answer half an hour. That would be better. So I think I would like to request Bibhor, please join on the stage and just to guide us and how to tell how the technology is, in the ecosystem is happening, how, because Bibhor is handling variety of the software providers, variety of the labs provider, and helping them with the ABDM integrations. Thank you, Bibhor. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. Thanks. Thanks for the intro. Uh, the presentation by Himanshu was great. It helped us understand what ABDM is trying to do and what all benefits it carries, right? So I'll just walk everybody through a very brief presentation on what it is that we are trying to do and how we at Dashmed can enable be it a hospital, be it a clinic, be it anybody who wants to integrate with ABDM in a much simpler, easier manner. And that is also very it's much faster than what the conventional methods might be, right? So as we like to put it, we provide 2 lines of code for better healthcare, right? So, but before we get into the actual solutions, let us first understand what interoperability means, right? So Himanshu touched upon there are multiple stacks of interoperability, there's services, there are records, there's claims, right? But what does interoperability mean for a doctor per se, right? So essentially interoperability means that there's exchange of healthcare information or exchange of data between 2 systems without the meaning being lost in the process, right? So if system 1 says that there is the patient or for example if system 1 understands that, for example, a zebra is a white horse with black stripes, and system 2 then sort of gets the meaning, say wherein they understand like the zebra is just a black horse with white strips, right? So in both the cases the picture remains the same, but the meaning changes entirely. So the meaning is very important in healthcare interoperability to be carried forward from one system to another. So if a patient has headache, or if a patient has undergone certain procedures, what were those procedures, what was the diagnosis of the doctor. All of that information needs to be carried from system 1 to system 2 without the change of any meaning, or without the change of any sort of information. And that is very, very critical, because doctors sometimes have to make decisions basis those data points. Interoperability also means that as a doctor, you can access a patient's past health records, which are linked across the ecosystem, as Himanshu showed there. And it is a two-way interchange, right? So the records that you generate and are linked with patients' ABHA are also made accessible. They're not going anywhere until the patient says that, okay, I want to share my records with particular doctor. It's under the control of patient, but it opens up that channel wherein you can exchange records between two systems, right? And lastly, obviously, patients have the ownership of their own records. Just as they carry their physical folders from a facility to another facility, they'll be carrying a mobile application in their phones, which will enable them to share their records very easily. Now, talking about pillars of interoperability in ABDM, for a practitioner who is running a healthcare business, right? What does it mean? So there you can look at it from three angles, right? One is, services, second is data, third is claims. First is, you're getting discovered via ABDM to the entire country, right? And maybe, in the longer run, to the entire world as well. So in that sense, you are not dependent, or you're not restricted by a single platform. You're not restricted by, let's say, a Practo or a Pristine Care, or whichever healthcare partner you have at your hospital or clinic. Your services are open to everybody to access, right? And this goes both ways. Patients can now look at, okay, which is a doctor nearby where I can do a quick consultation, or maybe a physical consultation, and I can quickly get a prescription and get the treatment for my ailment, right? So that is also important for patients to discover doctors who are nearby. A lot of times what happens is, what has happened with all of us is, we look for doctors. Either we have a doctor who is known from the family, right? People know in a smaller setting, people know their doctors. Okay, these are the famous doctors for whom you go for a certain set of ailments. In bigger metro cities, what happens? People go onto Google, they look for a doctor nearby for what type of ailment they have, and then Google shows up those kind of services. But what about the doctors who do not have a good presence on Google, right? They're not SEO friendly, so to say, in the technical terms. So those kind of doctors are missing out on the patient flow, right? So with UHI, those kind of you won't have to learn SEO, right? You just have to register on ABDM, and then any application can make you discoverable to patients. Second is about data. Now, data being exchanged between two or multiple entities, what does it mean for you? So a lot of time patients, they miss out on these older lab reports, right? Let's say if I had done a consultation about a year ago, we don't carry those records, or they might get misplaced, right? The patient might forget them, the patient might misplace those records. With the record stack, you don't have to worry about that. Secondly, if the patient has already undergone a similar testing, or has done a lab test in the past, they need not carry those reports all the way to you. They can just share it with a simple 4-digit OTP or a PIN, and the records will be made visible to you. Lastly, and this is more relevant for hospitals today, but maybe to clinics later on, is the claim processing time, right? So as a hospital, one of the biggest hurdle that you face while maintaining your cash flows is, how soon are the claims getting processed, right? So with ABDM, what happens is, all of those multiple portals that your hospital currently has to use, there has to be someone, or there has to be a TPA desk at your hospital, which is submitting all of that claims, and those are getting digitized. All of that processes goes away, right? Immediately, almost instantly, a insurance company has the capability now to approve, or process those claims whenever a patient walks in, right? Again, this is an open protocol framework, and as Himanshu mentioned, ABDM itself cannot access a patient's health record. It just knows that, okay, I have to link facility 1 to facility 2 because the patient says so. That is all ABDM, the scope of ABDM is, right? I'll not go into digital health registries. Himanshu has beautifully covered them. Let's walk into the advantages of ABDM integration for for your healthcare profession, right? First of all, obviously, more patients can discover your services. Again, this is very important because earlier it was not possible, right? Earlier, for a doctor to start a new practice, either you're reliant on your own network of doctors who are referring patients to you, right? That is number one. That is like the offline referral means that is happening. And second, we had this wave of private healthcare platform wherein the doctor and the patient have to be on the same platform, right? Now it's opened up to everybody. You can be on Practo and be visible through eSanjeevani now, right? So all of those information pathways are now open across platform, and you can take advantage of them. Second, with regards to patient admissions. Now, in clinics, although the process is not that tedious for a patient to walk in and just say that, okay, I have to consult with a doctor, and they get a token in exchange. But in hospitals, what happens sometimes the patients have to wait, because if it's a insurance network hospital, right? In that case, there's a pre-authorization practice that needs to happen before the patient gets admitted, saying that, okay, whether the patient is even eligible to undergo the process or not. With ABDM, what happens is the patient just walks in, gives you their ABHA card, for example. You enter that information in your hospital software, send it to the insurance company. The insurance company will run its own algorithm on the back end and will revert to you potentially in minutes or seconds, saying that, okay, we approve this patient's particular, this procedure, and you can go ahead with that. What does it mean to your business as a healthcare, right? You can take in patients faster and you can discharge patients faster as well. A turnaround time that reduces for the patient can greatly improve your total number of patients that you're treating per day in the hospital itself, right? Which is the second part that I was getting to. Pre-authorization and discharge processes can be streamlined. Now, you don't have to wait for hours and hours. And this we have heard from the best hospitals in the country. They have to wait 5 or 6 hours to get the discharge done. Why? Because there are multiple manual processes in between. First, the discharge summary has to be prepared, then it will get sent to the insurance company. Then the insurance company might come back to you and say, okay, or the TPA might come back to you and say, there are right. So and then you have to track the doctor to finally sign off on the discharge summary as well. So all of that processes, they get combined into a single one step process wherein, okay, the discharge summary is prepared, send it to the insurance company via HCX. The company sees that or the TPA sees that documentation, reverts back to you immediately. You're not waiting for their mail to come in or someone to call them up. So all of those processes can be streamlined to a much more huge extent, right? Fourth is past medical documentation. Now, when we look at patients today, or when doctors look at patients today, it's more of an episodic care. Or if the patient has been consulting with the same doctor, then the doctor knows the history of the patient, right? Okay, you have been consulting with the same doctor for 3 months. But what if you change places? What if you get transferred from location A to location B? Now the new doctor has to look at your entire healthcare journey on physical paper, and they will for sure they'll if the records are missing, they'll have to conduct their own test for them to understand, okay, what is going on today, right? So all of that, and obviously it results in a delay of the care that is delivered to the patient. So all of that inefficiencies can be removed from the patient's healthcare journey. As Himanshu mentioned, one very small use case, emergency, and this we have after discussing with a lot of doctors, knowing allergies of the patients during emergencies are very critical, right? So let's say the patient calls for an ambulance, or the family member calls for an ambulance, right? While the patient is being delivered to the hospital, during that time, the vital signs can be transferred to the hospital or transmitted to the hospital, and all of that patient history, a clinical summary of what the patient has gone through in the past, 5 years, 10 years, whatever time frame. All of that summary can be sent to the emergency doctor, right? Whoever is handling emergency that time, right? They get a small notification on their mobile application saying that, okay, this is the patient, this is the quick summary of the clinical records, and then the doctor can make necessary adjustments while the patient is still in transmit, right? So it saves a huge amount of time during emergencies, and it's seconds count at that time. Lastly, a lot of patients, especially in the elder care, are moving to home healthcare setups. Now, that's also they're more comfortable at home. Their family members around them, and there are companies who are providing these sort of services. Now, what these companies can enable, they can seamlessly integrate with their hospital and provide that daily report of what the patient, let's say post surgery recovery is like, right? They can generate a report daily. They'll link it with ABHA, and you can access it on a daily basis and see what the progress of the patient has been so far, right? So that you are the primary care provider in that case. You are the one who is making sure that the patient is receiving proper care. Now, some of the new opportunities that you can unlock via ABDM for your own hospital or clinic practice. You can create your own full stack digital healthcare vertical. Now, for hospitals, what this means is you have UHI, wherein you are discoverable to all of the patients in the country. They book a teleconsultation or a physical consultation. They come to you. The records that you want to access, are already linked with ABHA. You generate new records, you link them with ABHA, and then they go away or they visit some other facility down the line as well. But here the care management part can be undertaken by your hospital, directly with the patient. And whenever the patient, has a little more discomfort, they want to see the doctor in person, they can do so. Otherwise, they can keep on booking follow-up appointments on teleconsultation itself, right? Why should the patient walk in? You can do a follow-up consultation directly on WhatsApp even, right? So the UHI protocol enables that kind of a exchange between a doctor and a patient, right? You will get a full 360-degree understanding of the patient's healthcare. So you will get to see on your own, HMI software, the patient has undergone these many procedures in the past year. These were the results of the diagnosis of the patient. This is, and to the last vital sign that was recorded for that patient, right? So you get to see how the patient looks today and how the patient looked 3 years ago, right? And what has been the change so far in that entire journey. So a full 360-degree understanding of the patient's healthcare is necessary, especially with the increasing burden of chronic conditions. So we need to engage with patients more, understand what what they are doing outside of hospitals and clinics as well, right? And also with most of these newer AI tools coming in, where clinical decision support systems, something like that, you can do a risk-based assessment, of the based on the healthcare data of the patient. So if, let's say, the patient's lab reports are not fluctuating outside the normal range, but they've been steadily decreasing over the years, right? That means something is going wrong with the patient. Now, these are the insights that will only be visible once you have some sort of a software in between as well. And that is the beauty of ABDM, that the data, the power that data unlocks for it. So you can look at, okay, this particular data, this particular report says that, okay, the range is correct, but within that range, that it's fluctuating and it's falling actually. So you can take a decision accordingly, and all of that problems wherein the patient which the patient discovers at a later stage, you can discover it at a much earlier stage, even in OPD cases as well, right? Fourth is better engagement with patients outside hospital or clinic. Now, whenever the patient comes to you, they're coming out of like lack of options, right? They've generally, what patients will do, either they'll try to wait out a couple of days. Okay, I'll take some medication on my own, or they try to self-medicate as well, right? So outside, what happens, you have prescribed a certain physical physiotherapy regimen for them, right, wherein they have to walk certain steps a day. So in that case, you can look at the data of the patient, like how many steps they're walking, what is the vital sign that was last registered for that patient outside of your healthcare setting as well. So the patient need not be restricted to the hospital or the clinic's boundaries for the doctor to look at what they're doing or what the recovery looks like, right? say, obviously this improves the scope for preventive healthcare, wherein, we are, as a country, we want to move from a, a curative environment to a more preventive and a more wellness driven environment, wherein doctors become the, a sort of a care providers, right? They from treating ailments to, looking at the entire patient's health and suggesting what kind of lifestyle adjustments they can do so that they need not come to the hospital even, right? And obviously you can create personalized care plans, if you have access to all of that personal health data of a patient. There are softwares in the market which can help you generate all these care plans. You can vet those care plans and modify them accordingly if needed, and then give it to your patient. And same, the tracking can happen, using ABDM as the channel wherein you can track what the patient is doing outside the hospital boundaries. Now the question becomes, okay, all of this is very good. ABDM unlocks a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, but how do you become ABDM compliant, right? For a hospital or a clinic to become ABDM compliant or to start linking records, what do they require, right? So there are two options, right? If you are not using any software today and you want to use a new software from scratch, you can go onto ABDM's website. There's a partners page wherein you can look at these hospital management solutions. You can look at lab management solutions, and you can talk to them, understand what services they provide, and decide accordingly for what is best for your practice. If you are using an existing software and you want that to become ABDM compliant, that's where connectors like Dashboard come into play. We enable a day one ABDM integration wherein we act as the middleware between the software. We embed ourselves in that software, and the software doesn't have to spend or the vendor doesn't have to spend months on months just to integrate with ABDM. They can do it with Dashboard on day one, right? So a typical journey for a software vendor, for your software vendor, would be something like they apply on Sandbox. They do the Sandbox development, then there's testing involved, and then they go to NHA for a demo, and then they go live with ABDM capabilities. An alternate pathway for them would be to integrate with Dashboard and go live with ABDM capabilities. This is a very, I would say, a crude demo of what health record accessing would look like. It's not the actual software. We just created this for this particular webinar. So in the background, you can see all of these health IDs listed, right? These are all the health IDs. Imagine this as a software for your practice, for your clinic or hospital, right? And these are all the patients that are there in your system. Now, when you want to access a patient's past health records, you have to generate a consent request for the patient, right? What kind of health record you want to generate? You can select, okay, you just want to look at diagnostic reports for the last 1 year. Okay, you don't need access to, immunization record. Those are not relevant, let's say. So you can select all of those. You can create a consent request and send it across. So here we'll see how that flow looks like. First, you enter the patient identifier. Now, this can be pre-fed by your hospital system. You decide what is the purpose of the request. You decide, since when do you want to access that information, right? So 6 months old, 4 years old, whatever is the time frame, you can decide what time frame you want to, you want to access. So maybe not the latest, but certain up to certain date, and you just want to have access to the health records, right? So lastly, this is a very important step, consent expiry. Till what time do you want to access those records, right? So if the patient is coming into your hospital and they're just coming in for an outpatient consultation, right? You need not have access to those records after even 1 year, right? So it doesn't make sense. It's wasteful. So in that case, typically what happens is generally hospitals tend to take access for a couple of days in case the patient wants to visit again, or they can take a 24-hour default consent, after which the consent expires and these records will go away from the system. Under ABDM, it is very important for you to understand the records that you access and the records that you provide. The records that you access, you cannot store them on your local softwares or local systems. And the same applies to, when you are sharing records to a third party as well. So you need not be afraid that, oh, such and such hospital can potentially poach my patients because, they'll have a bank of all of these health records, because it is not allowed under ABDM. Any software that does so, is not following the ABDM guidelines properly. And under this, as you can see, once the request gets granted, you can see it requested, and after some time the request gets granted. And once it is granted, you can see the view button opens up here. Once you click on view, the records are still loading. And here you can see these records open up, right? So for example, you can imagine the first one to look like something like a prescription record from hospital A, a prescription record from hospital B, right? And the patient says, okay, I had done this consultation, 3 months ago with so-and-so doctor at such and such clinic or a hospital. Okay, you can go and look at the report, close it, and you can take the decision as and when you want. This is a very crude implementation, right? There's no AI system involved. There's nothing involved. This is pure human intervention. Now imagine what we can do on top of this, right? We can fetch all of that information, the software can fetch all of that information, present a clean summary of the entire patient journey, and you can access, particular record out of that. If you want to deep dive, you want to go a level deeper, you can do as well, right? So these are the use cases that can be enabled for you, as a practitioner in that sense. Now, lastly, touching upon Dashmed's role, if Dashmed acts as the bridge between ABDM and your hospital software. You can skip months of integration effort and just integrate with Dashmed. We'll help you become ABDM compliant, and you can take advantage of the digital health incentive scheme. Again, third-party platforms can only view a patient's record. This is very important to understand. Patient health data can only be modified by the original facility. So if you are the one who is generating a health record, only you can change that, right? It is not accessible to ABDM. ABDM cannot intervene or look at what the clinical data of the patient says, and they cannot just go in and change any of that information. It is not even allowed to the third party because they cannot get into your system. So any write or edit access is not available to them. It is only available to you, practitioner, for the records that you generate. Obviously, for the records that are coming in from elsewhere, you do not have that access. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you, Bivor. I think you've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I was just imagining if this will be implementation whenever I visit to the doctor place, rather than I'm telling to my history to the doctor will tell I know about your history. Rather than I will spend more time to tell you your lifestyle, management, more empathy time doctor will spend. And that is great, imaginations if this will be successful per se. At the same time, last week I was just telling I was in a one conference where the different industry people are there, and they were talking about the interoperability in their ecosystem per se. So I thought that the food apps should also be interoperable, where people will understand what is my habits of taking, especially in the metro people where most of the people taking outside food. They can understand what exactly my behavior about what I'm taking in this case. The doctor should know about that thing, so the doctor can recommend their lifestyle. So this is how a lot of innovation is.
That we can unlock after ABDM, gets
yes.
a good hold in the market.
So there is a time for the question and answer. I think forum is open. So Shubhangi, you can very well speak about the questions, or we can open the forum for the question and answer from the directly from the doctor itself. So if that will be possible, Shubhangi. I'm not able to hear you, Shubhangi.
Tell me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So before I head to the Q&A session, I must really say that Vibhor and Himanshu, I mean, this was a huge knowledge silo for me, especially because it was an eye-opener, and the different level of technicalities which are involved when it comes to the patient's data, whether it is protection, etc. So thank you so much. So we have two questions from Dr. Aarti Nehra. I'll just read out to Himanshu. So the first question is, what happens when the patient is not tech savvy? Can verbal confirmation will be okay, since hospital might have stored his or her history details?
Okay, so Dr. Aarti, this pertains to, if I understand this correctly, about the patient revisiting the hospital, in that case, I think the consent is not required per se, because the hospital A is the data fiduciary for that data principal, which is the patient which has taken the services already. Now, if the question is about the hospital B, where the patient has gone to see I would say second opinion, where he or she wants to share their data, and then in that case patient is not tech savvy, verbal confirmation would not do as of now, the current ecosystem, because there is no place where that verbal confirmation can be translated into digital consent, because in our health information exchange and consent manager, the consent has to be digitally recorded and with that patient identifier. So we right now, the common method per se is the personal health record application, or we call the PHR applications. We are working on other modalities as well, where the patient can be recorded by the hospital itself. So the hospital can enter the verbal consent, which you just said, basis some identification. Either it can be Aadhaar authentication or OTP authentication or biometric or iris or face auth. That, okay, this patient was here and it is she or he is providing the consent to fetch, I would say not share, but fetch the record from hospital A. I think does that answer the question?
Shubhangi, can you just just open the forum for Dr. Aarti? She can speak, and she's a good friend of mine. She can give a lot of thought process on that case. So you can just open for her this session.
Yeah, 1 second. Imran, you can help me out if you can ask Aarti Nehra. Yeah.
I think she's already in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rajiv and Shubhangi. Thank you. Yes, Himanshu, I was actually talking about if hospital B wants to take the records. And yes, you spoke very correctly about it. So in that case, you are telling like hospital A can take the permission or the consent. When first time this patient is visiting and this patient is not tech savvy, and they can ask, can we actually, take your records, and if at all it is required in the future, and if you suppose go to some other city, the records can be used. So if that kind of, consent letter can be taken, so will that work? So do you have something like that, or you can add on that feature?
So I think right now we don't have that feature, but we have been thinking about it basically to include the non-smartphone users specifically.
Yes.
Right. For the smartphone users, the consent notification directly come on their application, and they can simply, just like we have a notification bar on our smartphones, you simply click, okay, provide my records to this so-and-so provider. I think which the part which Vibhor did not show actually happens on the patient's application. And the consent will be taken, I would say, at the destination where patient is visiting for the service. And because it will not be taken at source, that source hospital can provide consent to any hospital which ask for patient's record, because then it would be very difficult to monitor per se that for which parts the patient has provided the consent or not. And specifically after the new data protection bill, the blanket consent concept will go away. We cannot give that blanket consent to a data fiduciary which is holding the patient's record.
Okay. Thank you, Himanshu.
Yeah, I hope Aarti has answered your question satisfactorily.
Yes, I understand now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Himanshu, we have second question, that can you throw some light on the legal aspects of it, especially if there is any serious adverse reaction to a drug?
Okay. Actually, this directly does not pertain to ABDM per se. This would be taken up by the either the National Medical Commission or the Clinical Establishment Act of the particular state. Because ABDM, as Vibhor and I touched upon, this is in essentially it's a gateway where you can talk to each other, but whatever is happening at the physical level will still be governed by the existing laws and rules for which doctors are accountable. So I think NMC has recently brought out some guidelines for code of ethics for RMPs in recent times. So they would still be governed by those, and if there are any legalities, so the existing rules will apply. ABDM will not get into those aspects. ABDM in its entirety will restrict itself to the digital means of providing and facilitating the healthcare.
I think that's why, Himanshu, drug registry is, is a top priority where, most of the people are not aware, because there are a lot of pharmacovigilance and everything is happening. Only thing that even the pharma don't know exactly how many, in the same drug, what are the drug reactions in the market, and it's not reported properly on the real-time basis, and that is how the challenge is in the ecosystem. Sometimes people report it, but it is not reaching to the regulatory authority. It is not reaching to the pharmaceutical company where the drugs is exactly belong. So I was in the pharma, so I know that pain point is there. If the drug registry will be implemented, I think can be solved that lot of
So I mean, the drug registry, I would say, will only solve the aspect of transparency and accountability in the system, but the regulatory lever is still with the Department of Pharma. They will enforce whatever the means and rules and regulation which are applicable for the counterfeits and the allergies.
Yes, at least people should aware about which drug is where it is manufactured, which company manufactured, where the normal patient, non-medical people not aware exactly what happened, and doctor is also not, so they can report through the through some applications.
So I mean, just to I think I did not touch upon this in the presentation. So the registries which we are making for the professionals, facility, and drug. We are also starting a public-facing facility, something called Know Your Doctor, for which you can simply add the health professional ID, and the visibility of doctor's profile would be publicly available. Obviously, that will the information can be controlled by the doctor, that what else parameter they want to show. Similarly, for facilities, we have started Know Your Facility, that where this facility exists, what are the different provision. And similarly, when the drug registry comes up, we will start something called Know Your Drug. So it's more about empowering the citizen, and then they would be kind of, with the right amount of information, they would be helping clean the ecosystem, or enforce accountability across all the stakeholders.
Shubhangi, do we have any other questions?
Not really. We do not have any other question. So in case if anybody else wants to put forth their queries. Dr. Shirali, Dr. Patel, Dr. Prashant, Dr. Chaudhary, Dr. Suresh. I think we don't have any further queries. 1 second.
So I think we can send, this health professional registry link to all the doctors, those who've attended.
Yes.
So that
if you want, I can briefly run them through the registration process.
Himanshu, we have one query. I'm just interrupting you. So there is a query from Dr. Shirali. What about the legal implications of using this data?
I mean, if Dr. Shirali can further explain what she mean by legal implications.
Yeah, you can, I think, open. Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you, Himanshu, was, suppose I'm treating a patient, but it's a complication because, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I am treating a patient and it's a complication set up by somebody else, okay? And there is a medico-legal case that goes on. Can this data which is being shared be legally used by the lawyers or anything? Because that would be very important for me to, or any one of us to understand how can this data be used for legal purposes, for negligence or whatever.
Right. So, I mean, to be very frank with you, the ownership from the data perspective remains with the citizen, as I said to you right now. If the medico negligence case does arise, the source will be asked to provide the data. It in nowhere, if you are not the data fiduciary, you will not have the data to give in the first place to any lawyer per se. You'll have to ask the patient to give you the copy of the data. And as I mentioned in the beginning as well, the federated health architecture ensures this, and Vibhor also touched upon that you will have an access to data to a certain point in time. You will not have the access to data afterwards, unless if you have provided the care and you have generated a record which is basis that, and that becomes a part of your data generation. Otherwise, if you're just a user per se, you will not have the access to data. And if you have to ask, I think you'll have to go to citizen.
Okay. But if the citizen has refused to give me access to certain part of the data that I'm not aware of, like he has gone to some clinic or somewhere that he has not mentioned, then can that be also traced by your systems?
Yeah, we can, I mean, see that where the patient has taken this care per se, but we'll not be able to see the content.
Okay. I think I still am left with a small query, Himanshu, is that if the medical legal case, if there is a medical legal case and I have not been given consent or I have not been informed by the patient that he visited somebody, because everything is controlled by the citizen, right?
Correct.
So in that case, what happens to my information? Because I would not know about it. Can it be documented that, okay, this patient has not given me information regarding that particular visit? Or does it just show up that there was a visit and then we could question them somewhere?
So the patient has the data, and you can, depending on where the source is. I mean, at NHA, this will not be the case, or ABDM. You cannot, if you want to ask as ABDM that please provide the record of the patient's data, ABDM will not be able to provide. We'll have to see whenever this data protection board comes up, because after the new law, which has been formulated by MIT, there will be a data protection board. And there is also what the law has prescribed, the duties of the data principal.
Okay. So that would give a clarity somewhere.
Yes. But I think the law has just been formulated, as I said. Once the sectoral implications become more and more clear, this would be more spelled out clearly in subsequent times. But I think this is an excellent query. Right now, I just have read the law, and it has prescribed some duties to the data principal, and it has also given some punishment to data principal as well if there is some condition. I just will have to see whether the case of medical negligence falls under that category or not, where the principal has refused to provide the information to the data user.
I think this is a very good point, because this is for the super specialty point of view, where the patient is coming from the various healthcare professional and coming finally to the super specialist like Dr. Aarti. And they have taken various treatment, and finally when the patient is facing any trouble, they will claim to the doctor, which is exactly the genuine doctor. And doctor getting patient is very from the various sources. So doctor should know what exactly the patient history, what exactly they have taken. The complication is not because of the doctor, present doctor. The complication because of the previous treatment algorithm. Right. So am I right, Aarti, in this case?
Absolutely right, Rajiv. Thanks a lot, because this is what will come to me finally when I am treating, and I would be the first person to join you, because prevention is what I love doing.
Right.
And that will go to the grassroots levels.
Yes. that is very question, and we can very well see, because it should be, this will give the empower to the all the super specialists per se, where they should know, they should have access exactly the patient carrying with the larger files with the since 10 to 12 years of the treatment they are not getting. Once they will just tired, finally the physician refuse that I can't treat you, then they go to super specialist. Super specialist treating the most complicated segment of this thing. If they will have the access, because sometimes finally they will came to the super specialist. So I've seen this cases sometimes. It's a very good question. So.
One related question.
Thank you, Rajiv, for making it simpler for me.
Right.
One related question to what Dr. Shali said. So, Himanshu, under PHR application, the patient gets the option to select which records they can even if let's say the doctor is trying to access all of the records, they in such a scenario, right? They want to look at all the records simply. And the patient, while giving the consent, they can deselect some of the records, that is there. So in those cases, the doctors won't know. Obviously, the responsibility, as the law says, that it's on the patient and all. But is it being addressed via any angle that that ABDM is trying to educate the patients, or is it the hospitals or the doctor's responsibility to educate the patient that no, you need to share all of the records and you don't need to hold off anything. So
I mean to be very honest, Vibhor, I think this is a domain between a patient and a doctor. This is a conversation which is happening between these two entities in a, I would say, which is a patient-doctor relation, which is right now would also be happening right now, that the patient would have skipped some record showing them in a physical manner, or the patient would have lost the record. So we'll have to see per se that how does the current scenario holds up in those scenarios. I mean, how does that look like in the current thing? Because ABDM per se, as I said earlier as well, will not have the visibility that or the education part. Again, it will have to come from super specialists like Dr. Shirali, that okay, the patient, whenever they come to super specialty, they should have that practice to share all the records, because at that point that is the critical juncture where nothing can be hidden from the doctor. So I mean, what is the industry practice in that? I think that education can be given to the patients. But
as of now, Himanshu, we are super detectives, where half of the reports are held back from us.
Okay.
So that is the reason I was asking this question: is there an accessibility to seeing some reports with the patient can share, or is there some track record at least where we can at least if it shows that this patient has visited some people, which is a particular facility. This is my suggestion. Okay, it could be used somewhere. Is that it can at least show up on your system that this person has visited this, and then give the patient the choice whether the patient wants to give you information about a report or no. Like right now, if they come to me for a cancer second opinion, they try to hide the main cancer biopsy reports from me.
Okay, understood. No, I think point well taken. Because I think this visibility, which technically we are also capturing that visibility only at ABDM, as we were pointed out, that this patient, this facility, this is the record, or this is the link to that record. There's nothing else which we are storing per se. We're just storing what we call the markers, or the top column of the records per se. I think we can think around it. I think this is a specific and an important use case.
At least if you can, at least if you can put up what are the investigations probably done. You don't need to give the reports, but at least if you can indicate that, okay, this kind of investigation, especially important investigations like a CT scan or a some biopsy has been done, then it can be an indicator probably where we can direct the patient and request for consent if they can, then it may be a little easier, because we can't have awareness and education across all levels of our population, unfortunately.
No, completely agreed. I think point well taken. I think we will have to revisit the scenario as I said, in the light of the current data protection bill, because these are what the law has prescribed, personal PIIs, the personal identifier information, which has to be guarded in the most heavily secure manner per se. So the technological architecture will have to see if that what does that fall under the PII garb or not. Exactly.
Is it
Thank you
possible
very
for
much.
to make that access easier for partners, wherein we get to know, okay, these are the points in the journey which the patient has taken, not the clinical data, but these are the points in the journey.
No, as a PHR app, you already know that.
Yeah, but
As
if the patient chooses not to share those records, we cannot show that. That has to be one-on-one integration. It's not a ABDM related journey, right?
Yes.
One-on-one integration.
So for example, if the PHR app and the HMIs are talking to each other in a secure manner, then the PHR can indicate that, okay, these are the different.
That has to be outside ABDM. It has to be done outside ABDM, wherein PHR comes in and says, okay, I know where the patient has been, and these are the fill in the blanks for the records, and whatever is missing, you can ask the patient to do so. And I think that if that lies outside ABDM, I think currently it will have to be done private, one-on-one integrations.
Yes, but I think this is a very important use case per se to improve, I would say, the clinical intervention by the super specialist. And to my knowledge, I think the private sector application would do well to cater to this particular demand per se, that these are the records of the citizen, and while the citizens are using the application of these private sector application, and they can curate that thing for the patients to share with the super specialty. They can create those demarcation that when you go to a super specialty, you have to share these things. And I presume again that the super specialty would also be willing to compensate for that information, because it also improves their clinical intervention in some sense. Again, I think those are the different models which the private sector will have to look into. But from the legal point of view, I think we can also look into it, that if we can make tweaks in our architecture to share some basic information without the express consent of the patient.
Whatever is there on the registry, whatever is there on the gateway, if that is made available to the integration partner.
Yes, that will have to see. No, I think it's not about integration partner. It is about the HPR, the doctor. That the doctors wants that visibility.
Yeah, so if the partner who is integrated with ABDM, either the software or connector like us, if they have that journey mapped out, and they can share that. Because right now, if I don't have the PHR access to the patient, right, technically it's challenging for me. I have to figure out some kind of. So what happens? Just say what happens in UHI also, right? We get a response from all of the HSPs, and then UA shows it up to the end user, right?
Correct.
So something like a response that says that, okay, this patient has been here, but the records that are made accessible are these only. So even in outpatient also, the doctor can get to know, okay, I can see there's a record that you have there. Do you want to share that with your that's between the doctor and the patient, right? At least the doctor should get to know if we want to add value to the doctor-patient consultation, right?
Correct. No, I think point well taken. I think this is a very important and crucial element which we also look forward when we join these conversations with doctor. So I think this has been the important learning for me from this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Shirali.
And I thank all of you for this wonderful thought process.
Thank you.
So I think, Rajiv sir, we are done with the Q&As.
Right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much for Himanshu, Vibhor, Shivangi, and all the doctors those who have attended. And thank you very much for the Confaxo organizing the wonderful event and help us to create the awareness among the doctors community about the ABDM. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.